Everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to look into another Leetcode problem, that is number of islands. And the problem states that we have to find the number of islands in a given 2D array. So the island is represented by the number of lands that are adjacent to each other, uh, forming a large group which is surrounded by water. So here 1 represents the land and 0 represents the water. So let's see an example here. So this is the input that we have. It is made of ones and zeros. So in this case, since this one is adjacent to this one, so then this one is adjacent to this one, and similarly here 1, 1, 1. But next to this one is 0. So our lands only cover this part, and this part makes an island. So in this example here, we have an output as 1 because there is only one island we can form. And the next example here is a grid given, and here we see that there is this one island. This one is also considered as an island because it is surrounded by water, and these two are considered as an island as well. So the output is 3. So let's see how we can achieve this. Uh, we have to basically do the depth first search for this. So by in the recursion manner, we'll first see if we have an adjacent one to one, then it goes in one group, then same as one, next one will traverse like this, and then we'll see if there is a zero. If there is a zero, we have to exit the logic, and we have to again see if there is an adjacent in the next column, and if it's one, it's a part of this island, and if it's zero, we have to exit it. So let's see how we can write the code, and I hope we'll get to understand more while coding. So the first we have to always check of the exit scenario. So let's see if grid dot count is greater than 0, only then proceed, otherwise else return that we have found only 0 number of islands here. Also we have to hold the number of islands, so we'll have to take, I'll call it as number of island variable, and we'll set it as 0 for now. Also we need to mutate this grid so that we can pass it to the recursion function. So our grid should be, let's create a mutable grid, and we can use this mutable grid ahead. Okay, so next what we are going to do is we are going to look through the rows and columns of this grid. Let's see for I in 0 to less than grid dot count. So this grid dot count gives us the rows. Whatever rows we have, these are the rows that we get in the grid. Another one we'll need for columns, 0 to less than grid dot grid of 0 dot count. So this for loop gives us the number of columns in the 2D array. So this 1110 will be the number of columns like this. How many number of columns we have, we'll get it from the grid of 0 dot count. Also, we have to only do our depth first search if we have the value as 1. If it's 0, we'll simply move forward, and we won't be doing the depth first search for those values. So let's see uh, if grid of I and grid of j grid of I and grid of j equals to 1, then only do our DFS. So just remember that this is a character, it's not an integer, uh, and we should put it in the in the quotes. So and after this function we'll return whatever number of islands we have. Return number of islands. We'll create another function to calculate the DFS, or the counts of DFS, or the DFS, or count of islands here. Okay, so what we'll pass is, we'll pass grid to it, and it should be an inout function so that we can pass the same grid here, and we don't need to create another variable for it. And it will be, this will be our row, so int, and column. Okay, so first condition we have to check is that we have a valid index, and for both the rows and columns. So in that case we have to check if I is less than 0, or j is less than 0, or I is greater than equals to grid.count, or j is greater than equals to grid of 0 dot count. Then we'll simply return 0. Also, we have to check if we are getting 0, and in case of the 0 character, we also have to return 0. We don't have to count it as a part of the land. So in this case, we'll do we'll check if, again, grid of I and grid of j equals to 0, then return 0. Now what we have to do is, we'll set grid of I and grid of j equals to 0. So once we have visited this, so this is how it will work. First we'll check this one, and we'll check if the next one is 1 or 0, and the one below it as 1 or 0. If it is 1, we'll form it as a land, and next again we'll move forward. And when the loop moves forward, we'll again check the adjacent ones, this one, and this one. But in this case, since this is already visited, we don't have to count it again. So what will make it, will make it as 0. So this one will be counted as visited, and we won't have to count this in our land. So this is what this piece of code does. Already, we'll set it as already visited. And next, we'll run our recursion logic here. So it will give us an ampersand grid, comma I plus 1, comma g. Means it will give I plus 1 is this one. We'll check for this one and the g one over here. Next, we have to see if its previous one is also a, so I minus 1. So if we are here, we can check if it's I minus 1 here, and and j over here. So in this case, since we have already visited this, we have 0, and we will exit the logic from here, but we have the next one, so we'll check the j and return as 1 for this guy. Also, we have to do it for the columns too. J plus 1 dfs, comma, this should be I, comma, j minus 1. And if we are through this, we'll simply return as 1, that we have made one island, we have formed one island, and we will return it successfully. Now what we have to do is we have to store this in our number of islands, but we have to increment the count as we get our return 1, or every time we return get a count of the islands here. So it is DFS, and since we are using inout, we'll do grid comma I comma G. So uh, this is basically how the number of islands or the matrix problem work. uh, it's not that difficult once you get hold of it, or once you know the solution. Cool, this is a pretty good runtime. I'll keep on making new videos regularly. Since I'm also solving these Leetcode problems, I'll keep on posting the videos. If you guys like it, please subscribe to my channel and keep watching. Happy coding!